Hey there, howdy shipmates. It's me again. Welcome back. Um, since I was here last, we have had some rather significant updates on the second edition of Star Trek Adventures, thus the background, the thumbnail, all that happy jazz. Um, they started releasing what appear to be weekly development blogs. We've had two of those so far. I'll link to them in the description. Also had what really surprised me was the release of the Quickstart for 2E. I was not expecting that for some weeks ahead because the release isn't until at the earliest August. They're still aiming for Gen Con. Whether they make that or not is a separate issue, but they're still aiming for Gen Con, which is, like I say, the 1st of August. So before we get too much farther, let us take a quick look at these development blogs. Like I said, these are going to be linked down in the description. This first one, it's a, like it says, a first look. We're not going to go too deeply into it, just going to kind of quickly cover it. Some of the main features, they cleaned up and refined the presentation of the rules. We knew that was coming. They've been saying that for a while, so that's not a big surprise. They've incorporated the various lessons they've learned, also not a big surprise. Now, here's one that kind of caught me by surprise, and I'm not, I was, well, when this first came out, I was really not sure at all how I felt about it. There are no more challenge dice. No more of the funny little six-siders. No more. Let's see if I can get one of these out of here. Just one. I just need one. They are in my little they're in my little holders rather snugly. They fit quite precisely. But let me quit sharing for a second. So there's even a chance that you can, no more of these guys. And I'm one of those weirdos who kind of like them. But as has been pointed out by many people at many times over the course of many, many, many moons of me doing this, I'm old. I am a grognard. In some ways, I may be a Luddite, which is really weird for a guy who, does this on a computer, makes videos for YouTube, put them out on the internet to say he's a Luddite. But there you go. I might be. I kind of like this. Let me get that back up. Not that. We're not there yet. Try this one more time. And hit the right button. There we go. There we go. Anyway, the no challenge dice bit, I was kind of undecided on, leaning towards being negative. The wealth of character options. The notable thing that I noticed here was that the interview I did with Jim Johnson last month, we got a list of 11, maybe not confirmed species, but some very educated guesses. And Nathan Dowdell was nice enough to give us some confirmation about the Cardassians, the Klingons, and the Romulans, but also to add Ferengi and Orions. So you can, in fact, play Ensign Tendi out of the gate. And the expanded life path options. A lot of these have already been covered in the player's guide, but they've been cleaned up. The presentation's been we know that there's going to be punchier, more evocative talents. We'll get to this in a minute because a few of those are listed in the quick start, which we mentioned earlier. The Klingon Empire advancement rules have been added, and they've worked a bit on starship mechanics. I'll let you read that for yourself. So there's that one. Now here's sorry, throat was getting a little dry. Here they explain a bit more about the challenge dice. Some of the big things are how they interact with extended tasks. They've upgraded this a bit. Which may actually make me use extended tasks more, because I always thought they were kind of a pain in the butt and never really did anything with them. This obviously is going to deal with starship combat. One of the big things they've changed is how stress works and how weapon attacks work. So, like I said, I started to read through this, but they released this on the same day they released the quick start. And the quick start is honestly the main reason we're here today. If you have not read these, as I said, links down below. Go check them out. So let me bring up this. Now, one of the cool things is that all these characters, I believe, in different uniforms. Here I am. I just shared it. And now I'm unsharing it. But in different uniforms, these same characters are the ones on the cover in all the different era uniforms. That Tellarite, I'm pretty sure that's the same Andorian. That's the Betazoid, which we'll see inside in a minute. But I believe all these characters are the same ones that we see on the cover, on the core book cover, and as the pre-gens in the quick start. So let's get back in there. You'd think I'd done this before, but I am so disorganized. It's okay. So let's zoom in here. I love the Andorian. It's got a mohawk. It's yeah. There's our Commodore. There are a couple of characters that I don't recognize, but I think that's our Betazoid from the core book cover. I think that's the science officer kneeling down in the corner. I'm pretty sure this is the same engineer in the Enterprise jumpsuit. So look at this a little bit. It starts out with some of the, the typical stuff that you would expect to find in a core book or in a quick start. What's role playing? What do you need to play? Discusses the core mechanic. This has not really changed. You find you get the target number by selecting your attribute. Disciplines have become departments, just like on a starship. So you got attributes and departments. You find your target number, you roll 2d20. If any of the dice is equal to or less than the target number, it's a success. Rolling too high, bad. Still, they have not changed that at all. The attributes have not changed. The departments haven't changed. Focuses are they're still focuses. There's a much greater emphasis on traits, especially for scenes and settings, but traits in general for characters, for scenes, for ships, for just about anything. But this discusses the scenes, encounters, how the traits work, trait potency. Now, I seem to remember this from the first edition core, but they're making more emphasis on it now. I could be mistaken. I may not be remembering it correctly, but you can make, if smoke is a location trait, it may worsen and become thick smoke too, which counts as two different traits. So, I mean, to get rid of one and to get rid of this one, you have to defeat it twice. Tasks are basically unchanged. Rerolls work a little bit differently. I have not thoroughly digested this, but there seem to be some changes, a little more difficult to reroll without significant change to circumstances. Yeah, the Enterprise. Hi, how are you, sweetie? Simple tasks. And why you might sometimes roll on these. Generating momentum. Momentum and threat are going to be a much more dynamic and well-used thing, because a lot of what was done with challenge dice is now done with momentum and threat. In my mind, things are a lot better organized here in this quick start than the first edition book. They do provide flow charts. They did this a bit in Klingon Core. They really went for it in Captain's Log, and this is going to be sticking around. I like it. It helps kind of with the flow of things. Some things have changed with determination. It's still associated with values, but its use has changed. talents are a little different, especially the ones that dealt with challenge dice. Those have been very clearly changed. We'll see that in a minute when we kind of look through the pre-gens. How you do assists is a little bit different. This is free, by the way, and I'll have links to it in the description as well. Let's see. Complications become a much bigger deal, as do opposed tasks. They've changed how that works. More emphasis is being made on complication range. How you can spend momentum is changing. A lot of clarification is what I'm noticing. A lot of cleanup, a lot of clarification, being much more specific about bonus momentum and things such as that. A momentum spend table. I cannot, for the even a brief moment, think this is a complete thing. I think this is mostly what's likely to come up in the adventure that comes with the quick start. Won't be dealing with that. One, I haven't read the whole thing yet. B, it's an adventure, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who might be getting ready to play it. Options with momentum. The momentum pool is still limited at 6. It's a group pool, so it's for the entire crew. How threat works got an overhaul because a lot of things are done with threat. PC interaction with threats, threat spends again. I can't believe for a moment that this is a comprehensive table. Spending of determination. Now, here's where things do start to get a little different. Conflict. For the most part, it's the same. Weapon damage is going to be a little different because there's no challenge dice. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. Like I say, this is free. You can read it yourself. But I like what I've been reading so far. This is not the existential threat that a lot of people are making it, and it's not the major headache that I was making it out to be. I'm gonna have to sit down and kind of play through it before I know for sure whether I like it or not. But it's not nearly what I was afraid it was going to be. But combat is different. And getting used to that is going to be a big deal for a lot of us. The way stress works, for instance, it's almost a meta currency of its own instead of, instead of just being kind of a hit point track that resets at the end of a scene. It can be used for a lot of different things. Specific examples of rest, how to recover stress are included. The combat is still fairly abstract. It's still in zones. Ranges are the same. Movement is largely the same. Cover works a little differently. Doors work differently. Various combat actions. Making an attack. This is also a little bit different on how things like counterattacks work. Attack resolution, being injured is a lot more like the shows. You get hit, you're injured. Technically, you may even be defeated. Defeated is a state that can be overcome fairly easily if I'm reading this correctly. But a lot of things are the same. Here are some of the new uses of momentum in combat. Weapon severity. A phaser 2, for instance, is severity 4. You hit somebody, you can spend 2 momentum and raise that to a severity 5, which affects how they react to it. Buying dice is the same as it always has been. Weapons are a little different. Weapon qualities. Some of them are vicious. At least in the Quickstart, isn't a thing. Oh look, disco phaser. Yeah, I saw a shiny object. I'm sorry. Now this is the pre-gen ship for the Adventure, the USS Challenger. Here's a little bit, things are a little bit different here. Characters have attributes, ships still have systems, but both now have departments. But here is, kind of set in stone there, for lack of a better term, because I'm having a smooth brain day. Approximately what year things are taking place in. So this is taking place in the Strange New Worlds time frame. So the ship's had 16 years of service, 1 refit. I'm assuming the refit time frame is the same as it is in first edition. You'll notice the class has become one of the traits. A lot of the talents for the ship seem to be largely the same. Power has changed a bit. You'll notice there is not a power stat over here. Here's the basic damage for ship phaser banks. Here's the basic damage for photon torpedoes. I can only assume that they're going to be mostly the same as appeared in Utopia Planitia, with little tweaks here and there, as we see here. Now we start getting into the pre-gen characters, and this is where we start getting a look at some of the changes to the talents and other things. Commodore Zen traits are a much bigger deal. Starfleet officer is a trait. But as you look through this, focuses are basically the same thing. And then you get pastime. So you're not necessarily committed to having one of your focuses for a character's hobby. They all get a pastime. Hers it happens to be Domjot. But here are the basic weapon attack blocks. The species all get a species ability, which is essentially a fifth talent. Everybody gets it. It was for species like the Betazoids and the Klingons who had to have mandatory talents. Like, the Betazoid has to have telepathy or empathy. Klingons have to have Braklul. This way you don't have to spend a talent slot on that. But here's, when spending momentum, they can generate bonus momentum for every D20 they purchase if she's, buying extra dice. Dauntless, you have to take 2 stress to ignore the attempt. It's not just an automatic thing. Now here's one of the big changes. One of the veteran was one of the talents that used challenge dice. No challenge dice anymore. Veteran, however, you roll the D20, and if it's less than or equal to the control rating, and then you can regain that spent point of determination instead of hoping for an effect on the challenge dice. Let's see here. Here's an Andorian species ability. It's basically the same thing we saw with Commodore Zen. But if he purchases extra dice with threat, he generates bonus momentum for each D20 he purchases if he succeeds at that task. Let's see here. He doesn't really have anything that works with challenge dice. Those are the ones that I'm really noticing changes to. Now, here's the species talents for Vulcans. Species ability. I think they meant to change that because everybody else is calling it a species ability. Yeah. But she can use stress to avoid suffering anything about emotional states. Studious is just the same as it always has been. It looks like Mind Meld is also the same. Tellarites are sturdy. They get a little bit of resistance from, protection from stun attacks. Enterprise reference, human species ability, faith of the heart. Oh, that's cool. When she uses one of her values to spend or gain determination, she can add one to the group momentum pool. That's kind of cool. Let's see here. What do we have? We got anything that really changed? I'm not noticing a whole lot of things that are just really changed and different. Brett, I mean, bold appears to be the same. Untapped potential. Now, here is one. I'm not quite sure how this winds up working, but it is connected to one of your attributes. And it works a little bit differently. If you equal to or less than, in this character's case, daring, gets a momentum. If the roll is high, he adds threat instead. And here is the telepathic species ability for the our young Betazoid ensign. And the reason I know untapped potential is different because his is connected to reason and not daring. I'm not sure what, because there's nothing specific here about what how this is chosen, how the attribute that is connected is chosen. But that's that. All in all, I am really quite pleased with the quick start. Very pleased that it came out a lot earlier than I thought it was going to come out. But like I said, the organization seems better to me. And what I've seen of the rule changes in here, I've got higher hopes than I might have had earlier, especially after hearing that challenge dice were going away. Because like I said, I like challenge dice. I got a huge pile of them. They're pretty. They're what can I say? I like my shiny math rocks, but that's all I've got today. The links to everything are down in the description. I am really looking forward to see how the other development blogs come out, see what else we can learn along the way. But I think that a lot of the panic that is being bandied about, I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as a lot of us thought it might be. I think there's going to be a very smooth transition. What I've seen so far is going to be extremely easy to convert things. The claim of backward compatibility, I'm thinking it's considerably more backward compatible than a lot of people have been afraid it was going to be. I'm liking what I see so far. So I am gonna get off of this thing. Because I gotta see if I still know how to edit this thing. It's been a while. I thank everybody for their patience, for sticking around, for still coming to see me. I hope that everybody's had a good a good I had a word here, but like I said, smooth brain, very smooth brain. It's been that way for the last several days. But I hope things have gone well for everybody. I hope that after you take a look at those blogs and give yourself a look through on the quick start, that you will be more optimistic. And I just want to say that, as I said, I appreciate you guys. I thank you for sticking around. We are over 300 subscribers now. I think the last time I looked, it was not very far over. We're at like 303, but over is over. So we're shooting. Really, right now, I'm shooting for 500, but I'm going to bid you all good evening, live long and prosper, and I will catch you on the next one. Good night, guys.